Hello everyone, I'm Timothy Go on another episode of Industry Insider with Dassault Systems. This is the show that looks into the different ways businesses are transforming during the pandemic, and more importantly, to continue on the road to the future after the crisis into the next normal. On this episode, we will focus on cities, sustainable, smart cities to be precise. How can cities better manage the urban environment and build safe, sustainable environments and infrastructure projects? How can we change the way we move around cities or create innovative mobility devices or reduce congestion in metropolitan areas? There will be 43 so-called megacities in less than 10 years. All of them will have more than 10 million people living within the city limits. That number becomes even more spectacular right here in Asia. According to the Asian Development Bank, 55% of Asia's 4.5 billion people will be living in cities. Just imagine the challenges city governments will face with huge populations to manage, infrastructure development and upkeep, and hopefully robust economies that go along with population growth. On top of that, these cities will have to maintain a balance to make sure the environment is preserved and all activities remain sustainable. So on this episode, we will speak to Dassault Systems' Remi Dornier, Vice President of the Industry Sector, Construction, Cities and Territories, on the challenges cities face now and in the future. Also on the show is Dassault Systems' Transport and Mobility Industry Vice President for Asia, Guillaume Gerondeau. Here's insights on the future of transport and mobility in the world's mega cities. Hang in there. We will be right back. You're watching Industry Insider with Dassault Systems. Now, if you have lived in any of the world's mega cities, Beijing, Jakarta, Manila, Mumbai, and so on, you would have noticed the huge challenges governments are facing in making sure their cities continue to function despite unexpected and expected disruptions that come with city living. Now, what are some of the solutions out there to maintain a megacity's resilience in the digital age? Joining me to talk about that and more is Remi Dornier, VP of Construction, Cities and Territories at Dassault Systems. Thanks for joining me here, Remi. Let's talk about the challenges that these cities and regions have been facing.
Well, hello. So if I can talk about, I would say, the challenges, the first challenge that I would like to highlight, this is the competitions. The competition that I would say cities are facing together. So this is pushing them to develop themselves in order to attract, I would say, citizens. So if you take the Pearl Delta regions, for example, in south of China, it gathers 3 multi-million cities, so Guangzhou, Shenzhen, and Hong Kong, which need to be extremely innovative, creative, in order to keep citizens and attract more citizens in their territory. Another challenge that we definitely all have to embrace, this is the sustainabilities. So sustainable urban development have entered in definitely a new era, which is impacted by the demography and the regulatory pressures. So climate change and new scale of difficult to product short and long-term challenges need to be solved. And the cities are today definitely driving the global sustainability agenda. So they have to satisfy fast evolving citizen expectations for a better life with more resilient, digital and attractive cities. They need to succeed on addressing two critical issues, which are in fact how to reduce the CO2 emissions, and how to reduce the consumptions of natural resources.
So this challenge you're talking about, is there an extra challenge to, well, let's say older megacities? I have a particular interest in this one because there are a lot of older megacities here in Asia with narrower streets and perhaps thousands of years of history right beneath it. So how do city planners deal with this in trying to build a more sustainable city?
So cities are step by step, I would say, adapting, transforming, permanently, I would say, transforming their territories. And for that, you can find, I would say, definitely key challenge that as citizens, you can definitely observe So today we are putting more and more, I would say, place to greenery, and you see, in fact, major transformations where we put more trees inside the cities. We reduce, in fact, the place and the space for cars. You have some cities like Singapore that definitely tackles the challenge of heat islands that are creating, I would say, additional temperature effect, in fact, on the area, and trying to be very creative, very innovative by doing such, for example, you're leveraging a natural cooling effect. So that's some examples we can quote in this area, for example.
So if you need to convince city managers and city organizers to change their mindset in building better sustainable infrastructure around cities, how would you do it?
So I think I remind a definition, what was given by IBM, which is saying that a city is a smart city. This is a city which is connected, instrumented, and intelligent. And if I have an advice to give, this is, I would say, the first challenge is human, and the first intelligence somehow is human. And today, digital can help, in fact, to bring humans around, in fact, the same referentials. So digital orchestrations and collaborations, this is definitely a way today to bring collective human intelligence and encourage somehow sharing practices.
So where does the SO system come into the picture then? What kind of support do you have in helping build the city of the future?
So we come at different areas. So the first of all, we help cities to build up their referentials. Okay, and these referentials is not collecting data coming from open data informations, from department informations. We collectively help to gather all these informations, and because understanding data is quite difficult, we try to assemble them together and to make a kind of puzzles, which is a virtual twin of the cities. So these virtual twins of the cities helps collaborations inside the city, but with also external stakeholders. It helps as well decisions making. And then, in fact, it helps as well to contextualize complex simulations that aims to think and find the best options in order to transform the cities. And with the virtuals, you can mistakes, you can, I would say, evaluate various options so that you can make, I would say, the real world, I would say, better.
So Remi, can you share with us some successful city transformations that you know of?
Okay, so I think I could mention three, I would say, stories. The first one I would like to mention, we all live the COVID crisis. So this is the examples about resilience and health of the Grand Est regions in France, who decided to get a digital cockpit in order to better manage the decisions and the management, in fact, of the COVID crisis. So we built up a cockpit where we were able to bring in information about hospital occupations, about tests being done, and we plug on top of that some predictive algorithms to help to explain how the crisis will develop, how I would say, the virus will be developed inside the regions. And thanks to that, they could enter in planning sessions to better react and take decisions. Another example I could mention, this is a project that we did in Hong Kong with a service engineering firm, which is Arabs, where in fact we had to create some collaborative applications serving the government. So part of those applications that we did, I can quote an application we made on the pedestrian experience, where we have to assess the walkability within a very dense area. How safe is it? How connected is it? For example, how smart is it? We created an application about plannings, where co-creations were at the heart of the logic. So co-creations based on the virtual twin to assess the indicators and ease the communications between the planners and the service engineering firm engineering the planning. And the last examples I can share, this is how Rennes today is, which is a city of 400,000 inhabitants in France, is using the 3D experience platforms in order to improve citizen quality of life with efficient project orchestrations.
One last thing before we let you go, let's talk about the construction industry and how builders and developers can help in the transformation of the industry into a more sustainable one.
Okay, not only they can help, but they have to help because there is many regulations that they have to comply with. so that step-by-step construction is more sustainable and more affordable. So a good example that I can share is that today, how general contractors, such big constructions, are going to productizations. So productizations in order to improve the quality of the constructions, but also their sustainability. And by sustainability, this is in fact the integration of new materials, for example, on the product lines that are sold, I would say, beforehand and not project by project. This is how they will manage more efficiently the waste by going through a construction virtual twins that aims to manage parts, very detailed parts, so they can trace all elements. And it could be also some example of circular economies, where the step-by-step they take and they build, thanks to digitals and inventory of the equipments that are these constructs, and are integrating those new equipments inside new facilities and new constructions projects.
All right, Remi, thank you very much for your insights. Remi Dornier there joining us. He is the Vice President of the Industry Sector, Construction, Cities and Territories at Dassault Systems, sharing his thoughts on how to overcome challenges cities face now and in the future. There's more to come here on Industry Insider with Dassault Systems. When we return, reinventing mobility. What can smart cities do to rethink and redesign the way people move around? We'll be right back.
Spectacular, complex, and seemingly impossible. For every generation, the progress of our civilization has taken enormous leaps. Throughout history, visionary leaders have redefined how we live, commute, and work, making life in cities profoundly safer and better. But our modern urbanized life poses a tremendous strain on our future. The well-being of our citizens is challenged by overloaded infrastructure and environmental risks. Today's pioneering policymakers, urban innovators, and builders must envision the resilient and sustainable cities of tomorrow, requiring not only a transformation of how our living environment is made, but more essentially, what our living environment is. Dassault Systèmes 3D Experience Platform empowers the visionaries of construction, cities, and territories to reimagine, design, simulate, and build the next generation of cities and infrastructures, extending and enhancing the real world with the virtual world, enabling better planning, more accurate predictions, and decisions, connecting the entire value chain into a unique collaborative ecosystem, discovering new ways to create and deliver the built environment, centering innovation around the citizen experience, building a sustainable legacy by harmonizing product, nature, and life. In a future made possible by virtual universes, experience the future today.
Welcome back to Industry Insider with Dassault Systems. Decades of robust industrialization and economic growth here in Asia also created massive congestions on roads, and the region's public transport systems are often under pressure. Fast forward to the next couple of years, and we will be looking at self-driving and autonomous vehicles. So how should city planners rethink and reinvent mobility? Let's bring in Guillaume Gerondeau now. He is the Vice President for Asia, Transportation and Mobility Industry at Dassault Systems. Guillaume, when it comes to mobility, what are some of the challenges that cities are facing?
Today we are really at the beginning of a revolution where the car, as we know it today, is going to be completely transformed through what we call the Ks: connected, autonomous, shared, and electric, which means that the car we have been designing, developing for the last 100 years is going to disappear and give way to new forms of mobilities. Those new forms of mobilities will be completely dedicated to the usage, experience of a consumer who will want to really enjoy the journey, to be active when they move from point A to B, and also under the big pressure of sustainability. So we are going to see a completely new landscape of new objects of mobility, new services that are going to appear in the coming years.
So Guillaume, this new landscape that you just described there sounds very exciting, but how will cities then incorporate all the changes into the existing infrastructure?
But cities will have to take the lead on this transformation because cities have clear KPIs, clear objectives. The first one, of course, the one that is at the center of their objective and target are the people. How to improve people's life, how to offer more jobs, how to offer a better quality of life in the city. That's very clear. When you observe all the cities, all the policies everywhere in the world, the people are at the center of what cities want to do. But the cities have to operate under, I would say, what I call the 3S, the three sustainables. Sustainable environment, and we see more and more pressure on quality of air, carbon footprint, noise. Sustainability of the economy, how to bring new jobs, how to make the city more lively, how to make commerce really grow in the city. And the third one is sustainable finance of the cities, because they have to do this under constraint. So they have to balance the revenues and the investment. So the cities will have to develop new forms of mobilities that are going to meet those apparently contradicting objectives.
Yeah, contradicting as you mentioned right there. So with all that and trying to keep a balance and having to handle people and city planners and everything else that goes in between, is it really feasible to do it?
That's where the magic of digital twin comes. If you just try to meet one of the objectives, let's say you want to reduce pollution by forbidding cars, you might damage both the economy and the finance, and also make people less happy. So you will have to see how those different objectives combine, and how which of each of the decision you are going to make, which of the investment you are going to decide, how this is going to really impact, I would say, the behavior of the players, individual companies, and eventually how this is going to improve your KPIs. So it's going to be, because, and you cannot do this in the real world, because it would cost, of course, too much time and too much money to develop all those new scenarios in the real world. And that's where the digital twin has an incredible power, because all those scenarios, all those what we call the what-if scenarios, can be done in a virtual world. And you can create, model, simulate, and visualize all the impact of the decisions you are going to do, and you can make as many scenarios as you want and choose the best one in a very informed manner.
Okay, Guillaume, since you brought that up, the impact to the mobility players, what sort of impact are you looking at, particularly to OEMs?
But the OEMs will have to rethink the way they are developing, I would say, the products and the services, not to develop what I call maybe the one-size-fits-all Swiss Army knife car as they are today. You know, I used to work before Dassault Systèmes for 3 different OEMs, and basically the requirements, the regulation, the technical, the cost constraint are such that eventually you end up with very similar solution. In the future, the OEM will have to collaborate with the cities, with the mobility operators, with all the different corporation, organization that are going to offer those new services. And they will have to adapt in a very agile way, much faster, much more customized offer. So it's going to be, for them also, an incredible transition. And they will have to think locally much more than what they do today.
So Guillaume, to succeed in all of this that you talked about, where should the transformation begin? How should cities begin doing this?
But I think the cities, as I said earlier, the cities have to build their digital twin, but the car maker also have to develop their digital twin. And the cities, the car maker, and the entire ecosystem has to collaborate in a digital space where you can in real time, not in moving from very sequential, I would say, one after the other, where each player is using the own tool, and moving into building new solutions that will meet the 3S: sustainable environment, because of course, carbon free is not negotiable eventually. Sustainable economy, because of course people need to continue to live and to improve the quality of life, and of course in a sustainable way. And people will have to work on a single model in this digital space that will combine the city and the object of mobility and the service, what we call harmonizing product, nature and life at Dassault Systèmes.
Thanks, Guillaume, for sharing your insights. Guillaume Gerondeau is the Vice President in Asia for Transportation and Mobility Industry at Dassault Systèmes. Well, as we have learned in today's show, virtual twin technologies enable city and mobility ecosystems for design engineering simulation, validate future vision, and realize sustainable and resilient future. Well, this episode is a lead up to the Future Sustainable Cities program starting next Monday, July 19th. The Future Sustainable Cities program will look at how cities, governments, and businesses can work together, taking advantage of modern technology to create environmentally friendly and sustainable urban infrastructure and transport systems. There will be 3 tracks focusing on the sustainable city, reinventing mobility, and smart construction. So look out for details and register for the program. We've come to the end of this episode. We will see you again on the next Industry Insider with Dassault Systèmes. Thanks for watching.